Hey, this is Robby Bobby, grateful member of ACA. The topic of this video is Stop Dissociating by Integrating Trait 10. And while the words stop dissociating are more likely to grab people's attention, the video is primarily concerned with the second part of the title because by integrating your traits, all kinds of good things are likely to happen. Dialing down the need to dissociate is just one of them. So let me start by defining a few things. First, what is dissociation? In a nutshell, it's a feeling of detachment from one's thoughts, feelings, surroundings, identity, and even life, which creates an unhealthy escape from reality. It is a defense mechanism that is learned, and I would say perfected, in childhood, where it was the only way to cope with painful abandonment feelings. Since feeling our feelings is a big part of ACA recovery, we need to somehow dial down this automatic and conditioned response. One of the ways is through integration. By the way, a synonym of dissociation is disassociation. The key difference is that dissociation is more about disconnecting from one's feelings or emotionally disconnecting from another person, where disassociation is a decision to no longer associate with another person or group. What is integration? When we were young, painful feelings were stuffed or repressed. This created fragmented or disconnected feelings which still reside in our unconscious mind. Part of the ACA recovery process is to integrate or connect these fragmented feelings into the larger narrative of our life, both past and present. However, in order to access and sit with these feelings, we need to dial down the survival traits whose job it is to suppress them. To do this, ACA recommends that we integrate the traits themselves. There are many ways this can be done. You can learn about how by working the Steps Workbook, the Laundry List Workbook, and the Loving Parent Guidebook. One simple way, which I will cover in this video, is to repurpose the trait. In other words, to give it a new assignment. What are the 14 traits? The traits are the effects of growing up in an alcoholic or otherwise dysfunctional home. They are collectively referred to as the Laundry List, which was written in 1978 by ACA's founder, Tony A. The traits are what we admit we are powerless over in Step 1. Step 1 in ACA, we admitted we were powerless over the effects of living with alcoholism or other family dysfunction, that our lives had become unmanageable. If we admit we are powerless, then we realize we cannot simply switch these traits off with our self-will. As such, we need to find other ways to dial them down. Now let's take a look at trait 10, which says we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhood and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. Denial. And I'm going to repeat that. We have stuffed our feelings from a traumatic childhood and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. Okay, this implies there is a part of me that has become very proficient at stuffing or repressing feelings. This is a very old program, and it runs automatically without being consciously aware of it. How does it do this? What are the mechanisms? Here is one possible example. Let's say I'm alone and feeling bored, perhaps even creeping into the territory of loneliness. Oh no. Well, in order to ward off potential painful feelings, trait 10 will be activated or triggered. This happens automatically. It's important to note how much is happening in the unconscious part of the mind. The inner child fully resides in the unconscious. All of our repressed and unprocessed feelings of shame, grief, fear, etc. reside there as well as a big part of our intelligence, which knows all the various ways which we can access what ACA refers to as the inner drugstore. In other words, we all know on an unconscious level how to push our own buttons. These buttons are the mechanisms for dissociation. One of my buttons is Instagram, which provides instant escape, which is probably why it's so popular. Each scroll provides a dopamine hit, which suppresses whatever I had been feeling or was about to feel. The way I see it, my inner defense mechanisms utilize Instagram to hijack my nervous system in order to suppress my feelings. Okay, so how do I integrate this trait, which is so adept at suppressing feelings? Well, ACA literature suggests that some traits can be repurposed or given a new job assignment. And it occurred to me that if there's a part of me that can suppress feelings, could it not be asked to suppress the urge to open Instagram? There's no doubt in my mind that if it wants to, it can. It is an expert at suppression and repression. And since the trait is actually trying to help me, it genuinely is trying to help. So if I tell it that the best possible way to help is to allow me to feel my feelings and instead suppress the need to dissociate, then perhaps its skills can be used to aid my recovery instead of hindering it. I've been experimenting with this, and I find that sometimes it works pretty good. Other times not as much. That's okay. It's a learning process. Also, what works for one person may not work so well for someone else. This is why it's important to experiment and see what works for you. And more importantly, to have fun with it. And one final note on this. When I make a decision to practice self-love and to trust in a higher power, which is the Tony A Step 3, I'm not taking any action in that moment other than making a decision to do so. I then get to spend the rest of the day looking for ways to practice self-love and trust in a higher power. Essentially, my job becomes carrying out the decision I made earlier. See? So, in a similar way, I need to make a decision to integrate my traits and then go about trying to put that decision into practice. I'm Robby Bobby. Thank you for listening, and as always, keep coming back.
And you know I'm an approval seeker.
So please click the like button.